Let's start with a brief summary. This article, written by Paul Graham in 2009, examines the reasons why Segway could not fulfill its initial promises. He points out that someone using a Segway looks stupid and gives off a smug impression. Graham suggests that because we look like we're just standing on a Segway, it carries us effortlessly, and this situation creates discomfort in people. He argues that Segway's failure actually stems from the company itself being a kind of Segway. Because they were very successful in raising money, they quickly moved forward without understanding that people looked stupid while riding them, instead of slowly improving their products based on user feedback. Before we dive in, I want to share a quick note about how this podcast is created. As you've probably noticed, this podcast isn't voiced by a human, but by artificial intelligence. I'm obligated to inform you of this beforehand due to the rules of AI services. This podcast is made possible by our sponsor, Wope.com, an AI startup that combines content marketing with artificial intelligence to significantly boost traffic and revenue of your startups. For all the latest content, be sure to follow me at x.com yigith Now let's turn our attention back to the essay. Hashtag the real reasons behind Segway's failure. Original title, The Trouble with the Segway. Date, July 2009. The Segway hasn't delivered on its initial promise, to put it mildly. There are several reasons why, but one is that people don't want to be seen riding them. Someone riding a Segway looks like a dork. My friend Trevor Blackwell built his own Segway /tlb.org/scooter, which we called the Segwell. He also built a one-wheeled version, the Eunicycle, //tlb.org/Eunicycle, which looks exactly like a regular unicycle till you realize the rider isn't pedaling. He has ridden them both to downtown Mountain View to get coffee. When he rides the unicycle, people smile at him. But when he rides the Segwell, they shout abuse from their cars. Too lazy to walk, you fucking homo? Why do Segways provoke this reaction? The reason you look like a dork riding a Segway is that you look smug. You don't seem to be working hard enough. Someone riding a motorcycle isn't working any harder. But because he's sitting astride it, he seems to be making an effort. When you're riding a Segway, you're just standing there. And someone who's being whisked along while seeming to do no work, someone in a sedan chair, for example, can't help but look smug. Try this thought experiment and it becomes clear. Imagine something that worked like the Segway, but that you rode with one foot in front of the other, like a skateboard. That wouldn't seem nearly as uncool. So there may be a way to capture more of the market Segway hoped to reach. Make a version that doesn't look so easy for the rider. It would also be helpful if the styling was in the tradition of skateboards or bicycles rather than medical devices. Curiously enough, what got Segway into this problem was that the company was itself a kind of Segway. It was too easy for them. They were too successful raising money. If they'd had to grow the company gradually, by iterating through several versions they sold to real users, they'd have learned pretty quickly that people look stupid riding them. Instead, they had enough to work in secret. They had focus groups aplenty, I'm sure, but they didn't have the people yelling insults out of cars. So they never realized they were zooming confidently down a blind alley.